Okay, so we've had a lot of listeners asking about Rivian stock and whether it's a good buy right now.
Yeah, it's definitely been a hot topic.
It has.
Yeah.
So to help us with this deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
we're turning to an article from the Motley Fool.
Oh, okay.
For those who aren't familiar,
Yeah.
they're a financial services company,
Mm-hmm.
and they really aim to help make people smarter about money.
Right.
So the article we're looking at is titled
Okay.
3 Reasons to Buy Rivian Stock.
Mm.
Like there's no tomorrow.
Wow.
And it was published just a few days ago on December 27th, 2024.
Very recent.
Very recent, yes. So right off the bat, the author, Ruben Greg Brewer,
Okay.
doesn't shy away from the fact that investing in Rivian
Mm-hmm.
is considered high risk.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a newer company in a pretty volatile market.
Exactly. But he does lay out a pretty compelling argument for those investors who are, maybe a bit more comfortable with
With risk.
risk. Yeah. More adventure in their portfolio.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that the article doesn't just focus on the hype,
Right.
which you see a lot with these newer companies.
Absolutely.
But it really digs into some concrete milestones that Rivian is hitting,
Okay.
particularly around their path to profitability.
Yeah. The article actually projects that they might achieve a modest gross profit in Q4 of 2024.
That's right.
So for those of us who don't exactly speak fluent finance,
Right.
what does that actually mean for Rivian?
Well, it essentially means they're getting closer to actually being able to cover the costs of building their, trucks and SUVs.
Okay.
Now, it's not overall profitability just yet,
Right.
but it's a big step in the right direction. It's
Sure.
like laying the foundation.
So it's like they're proving they can actually make money from making cars,
Yeah, exactly.
which seems pretty important for a car company.
It does seem kind of crucial, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
And what's really interesting is if you compare that to some of the other EV startups out there, a lot of them are still burning through cash.
Right.
Nowhere near this kind of milestone.
Mm.
So if Rivian does hit this target,
Yeah.
it shows you as a potential investor that they're not just talking, they're actually able to execute.
That's a really good point.
I think so.
Because it's one thing to have a cool product
Right.
and a big vision,
Of course.
but being able to actually deliver on those promises,
Yeah,
that's a whole other ballgame.
definitely. And the exciting thing is that as Rivian scales up its production,
Yeah.
this gross profit could potentially expand
Okay.
and allow them to cover other expenses as well.
Like what kind of things?
Well, research and development, marketing, all the stuff that keeps a business growing.
Makes sense. So profitability is looking up, potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
But Rivian isn't exactly going it alone, right?
No, they're not.
They've got some pretty big names in their corner.
Right. The article really emphasizes Rivian's partnership with Amazon.
Yeah.
Now, I think we all know about this deal.
It's not exactly a secret.
Got it all.
But sometimes the obvious things are the ones that are easiest to overlook.
Absolutely.
So remind us, why is this partnership such a big deal?
Okay, so Rivian has this contract to produce electric delivery vans for Amazon.
Right.
And this is huge for a few reasons. First, it provides Rivian with a really stable revenue stream,
Okay.
which is, like gold for a young company.
That makes sense.
And second, it gives them a very powerful ally in Amazon,
Mhm.
which is a company known for its logistics and operational expertise.
Yeah, I actually remember reading somewhere that Amazon actually increased their order of vans
Oh, wow.
when Rivian was facing all those supply chain issues earlier this year.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just a standard business transaction.
Oh.
It suggests that Amazon is really invested in Rivian's success.
Yeah.
And they're willing to kind of help them weather the storms.
Interesting.
That kind of commitment from a giant like Amazon
Yeah.
speaks volumes.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see that every day.
Not at all.
It's almost like having a safety net,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that even if things get tough,
Yeah,
Amazon's got their back.
definitely. But wait, there's another big partnership in the mix.
Oh, there is.
There is, yeah. The Volkswagen deal.
Okay.
Now, this one might not be as widely known as the Amazon partnership,
Right.
but it's potentially just as significant.
Interesting. Okay, tell me more.
Okay, so essentially, Volkswagen is investing $5 billion
Wow.
in Rivian
Okay.
over several years,
Mhm.
and in return, they get access to Rivian's electric vehicle technology.
So why is this a big deal for Rivian?
Well, this infusion of cash from, one of the biggest automakers in the world, it's like a massive vote of confidence.
Right. It's a huge validation of their technology and their vision.
Exactly. But, it also raises the question.
Yeah, what's that?
Doesn't giving Volkswagen access to their tech
Mm-hmm.
potentially create a competitor down the line?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
It is.
But for a company like Rivian,
Right.
maybe that's just the cost of playing in the big leagues.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that perfectly sets the stage for, what we can talk about next.
Yeah.
The potential challenges and risks
Okay.
that Rivian faces. Because as with any investment,
Yeah.
especially in a market as dynamic as EVs,
Yeah.
there's always two sides to the coin.
Absolutely.
So we can dive into that next.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. So we've talked about, Rivian's potential path to profitability
Right.
and those pretty game-changing partnerships.
Yeah.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
What about the risks?
Yeah.
What could potentially, derail Rivian's journey to the top?
Well, the article definitely acknowledges that the EV market is incredibly competitive.
Right.
It's like the Wild West out there,
Yeah, I could see how that would be tough for a newer company like Rivian
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
really stand out and make a name for themselves.
It is. And you've got the established players like Tesla,
Of course.
and then all the traditional automakers who are, jumping on the electric bandwagon.
Right. And then, of course,
Yeah.
you've got a whole stampede of startups all vying for a slice of that pie.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what about Rivian's technology? I mean,
Yeah,
they seem to be pretty innovative.
they are.
Doesn't that give them an edge?
Well, innovation is definitely key,
Okay.
but it's also a moving target,
Right.
The EV landscape is constantly evolving.
Sure.
What's cutting edge today could be obsolete tomorrow.
Right.
Rivian can't afford to just rest on their laurels.
Yeah.
They have to constantly push the boundaries,
Yeah.
anticipate future trends, and adapt quickly.
So it's not enough to just be good.
Nope.
They need to be exceptional.
Exactly.
Constantly raising the bar.
And even then, there are no guarantees.
Right?
Because the article actually uses this kind of stark phrase to describe the EV market.
What's that?
They say it's littered with business ideas that sounded great but didn't pan out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
And it's true.
So besides the intense competition and the need to constantly stay ahead of the innovation curve, what are some other specific challenges that Rivian might face?
Well, one hurdle is definitely scaling production.
Okay.
They've already encountered some supply chain issues,
They have?
which, have delayed some of their plans.
Right.
Ramping up production to meet growing demand
Yeah.
is no easy feat.
It's like an intricate ballet
It is.
where every dancer needs to be perfectly in sync.
Yeah.
And, any little stumble
Right.
could lead to a major setback.
Exactly. And then there's also the whole issue of consumer adoption.
Okay, yeah, that's important.
While, interest in EVs is definitely booming,
It is.
there are still some barriers to overcome.
Like what?
Well, think about charging infrastructure,
Okay.
range anxiety.
Right, the fear of running out of juice before you reach your destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, price.
Right,
Can't
because
ruin.
even if Rivian builds these amazing vehicles, they need to make sure people can actually
Right.
afford them.
Afford them, charge them conveniently,
Yeah.
and feel confident driving them, long distances.
It's like a puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah,
All the pieces need to kind of fit together
they do.
for that picture to be complete.
Exactly. And, another piece of that puzzle
Yeah, what's that?
is maintaining their brand positioning.
Okay.
Rivian is targeting a higher-end market
They are?
with their trucks and SUVs,
Right.
so they need to convince consumers that their vehicles are worth that, premium price tag.
Especially when there are more affordable EV options out there.
Exactly.
So they're walking a tightrope,
They are.
trying to balance innovation and luxury
Right.
and affordability, all while navigating, this fiercely competitive market.
It's a lot.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
And that brings us to a really interesting question, I think.
Yeah. What's that?
We focused a lot on Rivian itself,
We have.
but what about the bigger picture?
Yeah, zooming out.
Zooming out. Yeah.
What are some of those macro factors that could impact
Right.
Rivian's trajectory?
Exactly. Things that are kind of beyond their control.
Exactly.
Well, government policies and regulations
Okay.
play a huge role in the EV market.
They do.
Think about it. Incentives for buying electric vehicles, emission standards,
Right.
investments in charging infrastructure.
All of that.
All of these things can either really help
Yeah.
or hinder companies like Rivian.
And we're seeing a lot of variation globally
We are.
in terms of how governments are approaching this transition to electric vehicles.
Absolutely. Some are pushing really aggressively,
Yeah.
while others are taking a much more cautious approach.
Right. And these policies are constantly evolving.
They're constantly changing.
What's in place today might change tomorrow, which adds another layer of uncertainty
It does.
for investors.
It's like trying to predict the weather. You can look at the forecast,
Right.
but there are always those unexpected storms.
Always. Yeah. So it's not enough to just analyze
Nope.
Rivian's financials and their products,
You've got to keep an eye on the political and regulatory landscape.
which is always shifting.
Always.
But what about the technology itself?
Right.
I mean, the EV space is moving so fast.
It's moving at lightning speed.
It really is.
We're seeing these incredible breakthroughs
Yeah. And what?
in battery technology, charging speeds, even autonomous driving.
Oh, wow.
You know, these innovations could create huge opportunities for Rivian,
Yeah.
but they could also pose threats if they fall behind.
So it's like a constant race
It is.
with the finish line always moving.
Always moving.
Companies that can anticipate and adapt to these technological shifts,
Right.
those are the ones that are going to win.
I think so. But even then, there's one more piece of the puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
And it's perhaps the most unpredictable of all.
I'm intrigued.
Tell me.
Consumer preferences.
Right. The human element.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, right now there's all this buzz around EVs,
There is.
but will it last?
Right. Will consumers embrace electric trucks and SUVs
Yeah.
in the same way they've adopted electric sedans?
That's a good question.
It is. Yeah, Rivian's betting big on this idea that people are ready
Yeah.
for these electric adventure vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
But if those preferences shift,
Right.
or if new unexpected trends emerge,
Absolutely.
that could have a major impact on their market share.
Definitely. And all of these factors, government policies, technological advancements, consumer preferences, they're all interconnected.
They are.
Changes in one area can really ripple through the entire ecosystem.
Wow.
It's a very complex web of influences.
So it's not enough to just look at Rivian in isolation.
Right.
You need to understand the broader context, the forces that are shaping the industry as a whole.
Exactly. But how does all of this help our listener,
Yeah,
who's trying to decide whether or not to invest in Rivian?
right.
What's the key takeaway here?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that while Rivian shows promise,
Right.
it's still a high-risk investment
Yeah.
operating in a very dynamic market.
Right.
There are a lot of potential rewards,
Sure.
but also a lot of potential pitfalls.
So this isn't a set it and forget it stock.
No.
It requires careful monitoring, a willingness to adapt,
Right.
and an understanding of the risks involved.
Definitely.
But hey, isn't that part of the excitement of investing?
I think so. It's all about weighing the potential rewards against the potential risks
Right.
and making an informed decision
Exactly.
based on your individual circumstances and risk tolerance.
All right, well, let's wrap things up then.
Okay, so it's good.
So it sounds like investing in a company like Rivian is kind of like setting sail on
Uncharted waters.
uncharted waters.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential for, discovery and adventure,
Right.
but also that risk of encountering those unexpected storms along the way.
Absolutely.
So for our listener, who's thinking about taking the plunge,
Yeah.
how can they prepare for this journey?
Well, first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
diversify your portfolio.
Okay.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Right. Especially when it comes to a company like Rivian.
especially a company like Rivian that's still in its early stages.
Yeah, that's like the golden rule of investing, right?
Pretty much.
Spread the risk.
Exactly.
Don't bet everything on a single horse.
But even with a diversified portfolio,
Yeah.
I think it's still so important to keep up with the latest developments in the EV market.
Because this isn't like a passive investment, right?
Yeah, not.
You really need to stay informed. Read industry reports, follow the news.
Exactly.
Be prepared to kind of adapt your strategy as the landscape changes.
Because remember, this market is constantly evolving. What works today might not work tomorrow.
So it's not just about picking the right stock.
Yo.
It's about staying engaged,
Right.
learning and evolving with the market.
Exactly.
But for someone who's new to all of this,
Yeah.
where do they even begin?
That's a good question.
It is.
I think a good starting point is to understand the key trends that are shaping the EV market.
Okay.
For example, advancements in battery technology. They're happening at such a rapid pace.
Yeah. It seems like every day there's something new.
Exactly.
Huh?
So, keep an eye on companies that are making breakthroughs in battery range, charging speed cost.
Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
But I guess that's part of the challenge.
Right.
And the excitement.
And the excitement.
Of investing in such a cutting-edge industry.
Definitely. And let's not forget about the broader context, too.
Right. We talked about, government policies.
Yes.
And consumer preferences.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do we stay on top of those ever-shifting sands?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, paying attention to government announcements.
Yeah.
Incentives and regulations related to EVs is key.
Okay.
Are governments offering tax breaks for electric vehicle purchases?
Mm-hmm.
Are they investing in charging infrastructure? Are they setting stricter emission standards?
Right.
These policies can have a huge impact on the industry.
It's almost like watching a political drama unfold.
It is.
With different players kind of pushing and pulling in different directions.
Right.
But in this drama,
yeah,
the stakes are incredibly high.
They are.
With the future of transportation and maybe even the planet hanging in the balance.
And speaking of the planet, consumer preferences are also evolving.
They are.
Sustainability is becoming more and more important.
It may be, yeah.
So keep an eye on how consumer attitudes towards EVs are changing, what features and benefits they're looking for, and whether they're willing to pay a premium for those eco-friendly vehicles.
It's like a cultural shift is happening.
It is.
With people becoming more aware of their impact on the environment.
Exactly.
And, looking for ways to make more sustainable choices.
Right.
And it seems like companies like Rivian are...
They are.
Right at the forefront.
At the forefront of his movement.
So for our listener who's been on this deep dive with us,
exploring Rivian and the world of EVs.
The electrifying world of EVs.
Yes.
I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The future is uncertain.
It is.
But that's also what makes it so exciting.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from Rivian's financials and partnerships to the broader trends shaping the EV market. And we hope this has given you a solid foundation for making your own informed decisions.
Absolutely.
Remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
Especially when it comes to investing.
Especially when it comes to investing.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep.
Yeah.